So big tech working with local government to steal Americans' property. I'm like, it was simply a choice. The federal government could have easily prioritized wanting to build homes instead of letting big tech steal land from American citizens. Make things easier for the American people, violate the American people's civil liberties. It was a choice, and the government, both local and federal, are choosing to just not give a damn. I think by the end of this, you guys, you're going to agree with me.
We laugh at the bill, but the numbers don't lie. Do the joke, do the math, moral financer. Financer, 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 moral financer.
Welcome back to the podcast of Archie's Briefings, you guys. I'm your host, Arshel Branch. Of course, take the time to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so that way you guys are always notified when episodes are coming out. I know you're probably thinking, if you're someone who's watching this or if you're listening to this audio on YouTube Music, you're probably saying, Arshel, you sound weird. Yeah, I know. I'm sick. That's why I only had one episode come out last week. I was hoping that I would be over it by now, but I'm not. Only got worse. I feel a little bit better, been drinking my orange juice, so that helps a lot. But, you know, girls got bills to pay, got responsibilities. I had to get in front of the camera. I had to go to work and take orders and wash dishes because you can't be around people's food when you got a cold, obviously. So I figured if I can go to work and wash dishes and take people's orders, I can sit at home in front of a camera and do the podcast. And, you know, I've been doing a lot of research into what's been going on with the land grabbing from these tech empires, if you would, the AI empires. And it's kind of infuriating because I know a lot of people are realizing that, you know, the data centers that are getting built, that big tech is working with big government. Legislation has been passed. President Trump passed executive orders. Like, it's a whole thing. And I remember when I was having this conversation, it was a couple of months ago, actually, and I remember talking to my twin sister about this, and I said, you know, I feel like he could have, you know, made an executive order to make this a coalition. He could have easily had a coalition to build houses. And that same money that he's giving to big tech for AI, he could have easily had given to the very industry that builds the housing. Like, Charlie Kirk believes that housing had to be built. And, of course, you listen to people like Dave Ramsey, he believes that you needed to have Wall Street stop purchasing up the supply that already exists. So, protect the supply that already exists and increase domestic production. I feel like that makes sense. He could have easily made this an executive order. Now, that's not what he did. What he did do was pass an executive order to make permits, make them the permitting, I should say more accurately, faster for big tech to develop these data centers, to develop the manufacturers that are going to build out the semiconductors and the computer chips, that this was going to mean jobs, and that this was going to mean high-paying jobs, and that we were going to be bringing in all the best of technologists, and that we're going to be making people make more money, and that this is going to be amazing. Never mind the fact that there are environmental costs here, that there is a scarce of resources, that it's going to drive the costs up for neighboring communities. Just a whole thing here that we're just trying to ignore. Seems to me that the federal government and local governments are willing to do whatever it takes because this is such a national security problem. President Trump declared this to be a national security threat, that America has to build its own semiconductors. We have to build our own computer chips. It is important that we fight China and beat China in the AI race. And you guys, you know, when I looked at the story about this woman who is in her 80s saying no to $26 million, I thought to myself, she is remarkable. So I'm going to pull up the story, okay, because I thought it was quite fascinating. I'm not going to pull up the video. I'm just going to pull up the article because you get more in her statements there than you do in the video itself. They were splicing for sake of time. I'm just going to read the article because it pretty much has everything. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that now for you guys, okay? I'm going to pull up that article. All right, you guys. So this is a story here. I got this from ABL because I was watching the video from him. This came out a few days ago. So this says, he wrote this March 30th, 2026. Kentucky mother and daughter reject $26 million offer to preserve generational farmland. Okay, in Mason County, Kentucky, an 82-year-old mother and her daughter have turned down a staggering $26 million offer from an unnamed Fortune 100 artificial intelligence company seeking to buy part of their family farm for a massive data center. Ida Huddleston and her daughter, was that? I can't pronounce her name. Sorry. We're going to call her Miss Bear. Owned approximately 1,200 acres of farmland just outside of Maysville, about 2.5 hours eastville of Louisville. The anonymous buyer approached them last April, so almost a year ago, to purchase roughly half their property, around 600 acres, for a proposed AI data center campus. The offer valued the land at roughly 10 times the local market rate of about $6,000 per acre. For the family, the decision was never about the money. Stay and hold and feed a nation. Like, just fantastic. Love that line, right? Stay and hold and feed a nation, Bear told local reporters. This is the daughter, okay? This is Ida Huddleston's daughter. $26 million doesn't mean anything. She emphasized their deep generational ties to the land. Her grandfather and her great-grandfather lived and worked there, raising wheat even through the Great Depression to help feed bread lines across the country. Huddleston, who has lived on the property for decades, was equally firm. I say they're a liar, and the truth isn't in them, she said of claims the project would bring jobs and economic growth, calling the proposal a scam. Now, if you guys want to read this, go ahead. I will link the article into the description box for you guys. ABL, you did a fantastic job writing this because it gives you all the details. Like it's pretty much it's often it's awesome. Where is our show? Gotta forgive me, you guys. I'm a bit sick. A bit. Not even a bit. I am. Okay, so you guys, it's such an incredible story, right? You know, stay, hold, feed a nation. They fed a nation during the Great Depression. They have been a part of that land for, one could argue, almost 100 years, right? Like that's impressive. Like I tell you, as someone who has moved around a lot, like this is just from my own experience, I can't even imagine having such ties to property. Like I can't even, because my family, we've moved around so much. Like hard to have family friends, marry the high school sweetheart when you move around so often. Like I can't even fathom what that is like. Other people, like I'd say even my family members, would say, oh, nah, I would have taken that $26 million. You know what I could do with $26 million? Do you know? Like, I tell you, I am convinced my family would have made that decision. But she said, no, stay firm, stay here, feed a nation. And we sit here and we wonder why we can't get affordable food, or we can't get healthy, affordable foods, right? Because moments like this, when farmers and ranchers see that the money is more important than their responsibility to their community, to their nation, and it's unfortunate, but they have all the responsibility and none of the power. These are the people that supply us our necessities, and we're not even really thinking about that. You guys, look at what this says in this tweet up here. The largest data center in the entire state of Illinois, so this is a different story, right? Illinois was just approved despite huge resident pushback. It will be massive. Spanning 800 acres of mostly farmland, it will use 150,000 gallons of water every day. That's 55 million gallons of water per year. I've heard people say that Elon Musk, and Elon himself has said this, that they want to build on Mars. And my response every time I hear that is, build a home in the Sahara Desert. Then tell me Mars is a good idea. We have parts of America that are so desert-like, we don't even know if we can build. I remember when Kari Lake was running for office, and she said, at first she was running for governor, and she said she wants to make a deal with Mississippi so that way Arizona could get access to the water from the Mississippi River because Arizona needs water. We can't make deals to make sure that all American citizens have access to clean water. We can't make it so that we can provide that same 55 million gallons of water a year to areas of Texas, of Arizona, to other desert areas within the country so that way homes could be built. Are you kidding me? But we can make 55 million gallons of water available for big tech. Seriously, it is a choice. I'm going to come out of this article, you guys. Again, I will link his article in the description box. ABL, round of applause. This was very well written. Come out of this, okay? There are people who are willing to turn down money. Something is more important than money. This idea that everybody's got a price, just not true. When you look at Miss Ida Huddleston and her daughter, Miss Bear, like they believe in sticking it out and staying with the land. Now, as much as a lot of us are going to rally behind them and say how amazing this was, how amazing this is, let me be clear. Miss Ida is not the only person this has happened to. In fact, there was another woman. Her name was Miss King, or Mrs. King. Her first name is escaping me. I'm not going to pull up the video or any articles about it. But you guys, you can do some research on it. She owned land. She was told that she had to leave. She was being offered money by a company that builds out semiconductors. And she was told, we'll pay you for the land. She said no. They got the local government involved. The local government utilized eminent domain. Now, for those of you who don't know what this is, okay, eminent domain is not even just a policy. It's within our Constitution, where the government compensates the American owner, the American citizen who was a property owner, to use this for either temporary basis or to, own this, to transfer ownership from the individual to the government, and that the citizen must be compensated. But the choice is entirely up to the citizen. Like, you could just say no, and the government's got no choice to walk away. No thanks to the Supreme Court of 2004. I want to say it was 2004. It was a 5-4 decision, you guys. 5-4. Clarence Thomas obviously said he did not agree with this decision. Gotta love Clarence Thomas. This was an obvious way of having the government just seize land from the American people whenever they felt like it. So if at any moment they feel it's a serious threat, they could just take it. I agree with Miss Ida. It's alive. So how do I know this? Because I've been listening to enough conversation about it. There is an interview that I watched, okay? The young lady's name, I'm going to pull that up for you. So her name is Karen Howe, and I find that the things that she had to say is quite interesting. She's an AI whistleblower. She's also a tech journalist. I think there is something to what she actually does, and she's pretty much made it very clear as to what her position is on AI and what the myth of it is, how we keep these things going. So I'm going to pull up that interview. I'm not going to play the whole thing. It's really just a portion of it that really matters the most. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pull that up for you guys right now, okay? All right, guys. So this is the clip here with Karen Howe. She's on the Diary of a CEO podcast, and I just thought that what she had to say was really incredible. Let's go ahead and let's run it, okay?
So much of what's happening today in the AI industry is extremely inhumane.
But this is me playing devil's advocate. And logically, it could be the case that the civilization that accelerate their research with AI is going to be the superior civilization.
No, it's not. This is a prediction that you're making, right?
Elon's making, Zuckerberg's making, Altman's making.
And do you know what the common feature of all of them is? They profit enormously off of this myth. I have all of these internal documents showing that they're purposely trying to create that feeling within the public so that they can extract and exploit and extract and exploit.
So what do we do about it?
We need to break up the empires of AI. I've been covering the tech industry for over 8 years, interviewed over 250 people, including former or current OpenAI employees and executives. And I can tell you that there are many parallels between the empires of AI and the empires of old, right? Like, lay claim to the intellectual property of artists, writers, and creators in the pursuit of training these models. Second, they exploit an extraordinary amount of labor, which breaks the career ladder because someone gets laid off and then they work to train the models on the very job that they were just laid off in, which will then perpetuate more layoffs if that model then develops that skill. And when they talk about that there's going to be some new jobs created that we can't even imagine, a lot of the jobs that are created are way worse than the jobs that were there. And then there's the environmental and public health crisis that these companies have created, and how they're able to also spend hundreds of millions to try and kill every possible piece of legislation that gets in their way and will censor researchers that are inconvenient to the empire's agenda. But what I'm saying is not that these technologies don't have utility. It's that the production of these technologies right now is exacting a lot of harm on people. But we have research that shows that the very same capabilities could be developed in a different way that doesn't have all of these unintended consequences. So let's talk about all of that.
I mean, look, I think I don't even really see a reason to go on any further. I feel like she kind of makes it clear. I think just in that little bit, I do implore you guys to go and watch the whole thing because it is really, it's something. I did watch the whole thing, and I think it's fascinating. She does argue on this climate change issue. I don't believe in climate change. I think that's a hoax. I think that too was BS. It was really just about destroying capitalism in America. But she does have some clear and obvious insight to what's wrong with these AI companies and these AI empires. The name of her book is called The Empires of AI, because she's pointing out the fact that these are not institutions or an industry that is about democracy. It's about democratic ideas, a way of actually having conversation, open debate, and making decisions together as a civilization. They're making decisions that are going to impact the entire world, and we have no say-so in the matter. And that's what's nonsense. I'm going to come out of this, okay, you guys? All right, guys. So, like I said, I don't really think I need to go on any further. I do encourage you guys to go and watch it because it is really incredible. It's really smart. I think she's smart. She's a very smart lady, okay? I think Karen knows what she's talking about, okay? I think she's got a bit of a conflict with Sam Altman. He did tweet about her. Well, not about her. It was kind of an indirect tweet. He knew about her book coming out, and he tried to make it about her, and she knew. So she's got some animosity there. She's really interesting, I'll say. When your nemesis are some of the tech giants or billionaires in America, period, that says a lot. I think there says something about the whole David versus Goliath, and she feels like David to me. Like, she's a very smart cookie. I do like her. I can't wait to read her book. But I will say that kind of tells you the idea here, right? That they kind of move like old empires. This is what she was saying. This is her biggest claim, that AI industry is moving or very similar to the imperial empires of yesteryear. And part of the empire is that they seize the land. And that's exactly what we are seeing. With Mrs. King, that story I told you guys about earlier, just before I showed you the clip, was that the government did use eminent domain and took her property. Now, of course, they had to compensate her $2 to $3 million. They had to compensate her, but she didn't want to leave. And as of this year, she is now being told she has to leave the property. She's been paid already. She has to leave. She has no choice. This is a take the money and get off the land, because the government finds that it is of national importance. It is of national security that we take your property because we have to beat China. And if there's anything to what Miss Ida is saying, that there is no truth in them, that this is all a lie, that this is a scam, then they are scamming the American people into having their land and their civil liberties, their property rights being eroded. And this federal government is supporting that and a part of that. Now, he's not the one, it's not Trump and the federal government that's making this decision, but they're, from the executive order that they passed to the legislation that would prevent any state from passing any policy to prevent such a hostile takeover of property rights, okay, that they are going to be punished by the federal government. Ted Cruz has even spoken about how he's okay with that. Well, if you want to, pass policies that goes against AI, well, then you just won't see any benefit from the tax funding. That's the idea. That Americans are going to simply suffer because your state governments and local governments don't support getting behind all these data centers being built. There's over 140 activists in America right now, okay, who are trying to prevent these things from going up. Some of these projects have already been delayed. Some of them have halted altogether. Now, the data center in Kentucky most likely is going to be built because some people have already either sold their land to these companies, or possibly they have allowed the local government to seize it from them. I'm not sure which one it is, but I don't think this story is over with Miss Ida, simply because we've already seen a story where when the individual says no, when the owner says no, big tech chummies up with the local government and the local government seizes the property. So it really just comes down to, if the local government feels like she should stay, then she shall. Not because she's choosing to, but because the government says she can. And that's the problem here. And again, it comes down to a choice. President Trump could have passed an executive order that would have sent those billions of dollars into building up homes. Instead, he's spending billions of dollars and legislative powers and decisions of the Congress, all of this money, time, resources going into the harming of everyday Americans, from eroding property rights to increase in cost of energy to the water. My goodness, you guys, it's so freaking scarce in areas like Texas and in Arizona. My goodness, but 55 million gallons of water made available to data centers, to big tech, but you couldn't build houses in these areas and make that water available. You can't make some of that water available to the people in Arizona who are less likely to get a deal with Mississippi. Like, seriously? This is a choice. You're choosing to put money behind an entity where the myth is, if we don't beat China, then we're going to lose everything. Where if we are not allowed to steal IP, if we are not allowed to have the government utilize eminent domain in ways that the founders had never intended for it to be used, then all hell's going to break loose. Never mind the fact that the guy who owns Anthropic said there's a 10 to 25% chance this can go unbelievably wrong. That percentage is too high. 10 to 25% of destroying everything. I'm not saying that AI shouldn't exist or that we shouldn't be able to use it. Right. But the idea is that we're Starfleet awesome, that this tech should exist to enhance the ability of the human being, that it should make the human being more efficient. Okay. It shouldn't be kicking us out of our jobs. It shouldn't be causing us to have increase in our prices. Okay. And our cost of living. It doesn't mean that we should have to be competing with big tech for resources that already feel so damn scarce. This is a choice. And sorry, I'm inclined to agree with Miss Ida. I already don't believe this administration when they're talking about the Iran conflict. My goodness, we have less than 12 hours before the president is going to destroy an entire civilization. But we have to because he says it's important that we do. I don't believe a word you say, man. I don't trust a word you say. And I'm supposed to believe that big tech isn't trying to destroy humanity across the globe and we have no say-so in the matter. And if we do have any say-so, the federal government's going to punish the local states. Seriously? That's what we are today? Yo, people, I got issues. I'm too sick to go on an even longer tirade because I could. You guys know I could. So I'd rather continue this conversation in the comments section. So let me know in the comments, you guys. Definitely take the time to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you guys would love to support the show outside of subscribing, definitely go to the description of the channel and go ahead and cash at me there to support the show as well. You can cash at me at #RShelBranch. Scroll up to the description of the channel and you see the link to the Cash App there. Or just continue to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and definitely engage in the comment sections. Try to stick with me as long as you possibly can in the videos because it obviously helps with the algorithm. The subscriptions help, the views and the engagement help. So I'm very grateful for everything that you guys have done. I'm going to go make me another cup of tea because I'm like burning up right now. I'm burning up. I might have talked myself into a fever. God, please, no, I can't even do it. But I'm going to go ahead and get myself a water, ice rag, and some tea. So let me go ahead and do that. I love you guys. Have a good night. God bless. And of course, because it's me, Kepler.